So tell me your name.
Alfred Drew Loizeaux.
Okay, and when were you born?
I was born in 1932, August 24,
Okay, and where?
in Plainfield, New Jersey.
And where did your name come from?
My first name, Alfred, was my father's uncle, Alfred Loizeaux, in Baltimore. And his son was the one that made the controlled demolition, Jacques Loizeaux.
I'm not sure I realized you were named after that family.
Yep. And the name Drew was my grandmother's maiden name on my mother's side.
Harriet Drew.
Yes, Harriet Drew. That's
The
correct.
first of many Drews. So, where did you live when you were born?
I lived in a little house in the first house that I remember was in Fernwood in Plainfield, New Jersey, and I remember that very vividly because my first memory was when my brother and his friends, the McLeods, built a treehouse. And in the treehouse, which to me, being, I guess I was four years old or something like that, was way up in the air, which probably wasn't that high. But they had a hatchet in the tree. And so they took a rope, threw it over there, and had a bushel basket type of thing, tied the rope to it, put me in a bushel basket, and we're going to haul me up the tree. When they hauled me up the tree, they were shaking the branch. And the hatchet came down and hit me on the head. Of course, I don't remember that, but that's what they told me. Okay, but I do remember looking at Jim McLeod's head, because I was on his shoulders, and they looked down on his hair, which used to be black, was now red.
Because you were bleeding from the hatchet.
Oh, well, of course, the skull bleeding.
Right.
And we stopped at a house that I could take you back to the house today.
Was it on Fernwood Avenue?
No, it was just off of Fernwood Avenue.
Wasn't Lorraine? Because your
I'm not
parents did live on Lorraine Avenue once.
I just don't remember.
Okay.
But that house with the door that wasn't, didn't have a square top, had a
Right.
round top.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into that. They knocked on the door, and you know, here's a kid under there bleeding all over the place, and she handed him a towel, and then he took me home. My parents were not home, and so they called Dr. Johnson, and he came out, and my parents weren't there, and he stitched up my head.
So is that your...
And he was sitting on the toilet, and I was in front of him. And
he was sewing in your bathroom. So that's your first memory?
It's my very first memory.
And then where did you move after that?
Well, we stayed in Fernwood Avenue for a while after that. I don't remember how much. Then we went to Myrtle Avenue, 1027 Myrtle Avenue.
1027 Myrtle.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to that. But tell me your parents' names.
My father's name was Timothy Roberts Loizeaux. And my mother's name was Florence Douglas Loizeaux. Yeah.
And do you remember any of your grandparents?
Oh, certainly. I don't remember my maternal grandparent. I don't. My brother did, who was 6 years older than I was, but I never remembered her. But I do remember my maternal grandfather. and was very close to that. But I do remember my paternal grandmother. Her name was Grace, and
That's Grace Temple.
Grace. Oh yeah,
Right.
That was her maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her as sort of semi-invalid. I remember her on a Chase Lounge
Okay.
as a kid, but he was. But I do remember my grandfather, Paul Daniel Loizeaux. Yeah.
And wasn't there a story about how he would pick the kids up on Sunday afternoons? And am I making that up? That he would drive around and pick up the grandkids and...
Well, it never did with me.
Oh, okay.
So he may have done with the girls, but I didn't.
And what was his personality like?
He was very strict.
He looked very formal in pictures.
Very formal, very strict, very whatever. And I remember going several times to what they call the depot where the Loizeaux printing was in New York City.
Right.
And yes, I remember that.
And they lived on Putnam, right? Your
Yeah,
grandparents?
on Putnam Avenue. And right around the corner is where my cousin Ted Sheridan lived. So, you know, my Aunt Ann was living with my grandfather on Putnam Avenue, and of course her three children. And,
That was a house of at least 3 or 4 generations from time to time.
Yeah.
Because your Aunt Ann told me that Anna Mabel Roberts Loizeaux lived there as well.
Okay.
But
That I don't know.
before your time.
Yeah, before my time. Yeah.
So tell me about your grandfather Douglas. What was his first name? Was it Randolph?
Daniel Randolph.
Daniel Randolph, right.
Yeah, Douglas. Yeah. He was kind of a character. We'd go over and visit him, and he would serve me coffee. Don't tell your mother what you did.
This was Grove Street in North Plainfield,
Grove
right?
Street, North Plainfield. Yeah.
Don't tell your mother.
Yeah. And Aunt Mabel was taking care of him at that time, and I had a lot of fun with it. We played a lot of parcheesi, a lot of domino. I mean, not dominoes. Monopoly, etc.
Okay.
So forth. And one of my most vivid memories was in December 7th. (1941).
Yeah.
And we were playing Monopoly.
You were with your grandfather Douglas.
Yes, we were playing Monopoly. And he had the radio on. That's the only time I ever heard him swear.
Oh, really? Wow. And did you,
I was 9 years old.
you were 9 years old, what level of understanding did you have of that?
Well, with his reaction.
Oh,
pretty
that
strong.
told you everything.
Yeah.
That this was something pretty
Very big.
very big and very horrible.
Yes.
And he probably heard Roosevelt talking on the radio.
This was just in the news.
Oh, it was the
It
news.
was before Roosevelt talked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did your parents talk about what was going on?
Well, yes, because my brother was 6 years older than I was. You know, and the world was coming to an end right then and there.
Right.
And so, and my mother took it very, very hard because she knew that he was, you know, going to be involved. Yeah.
So, tell me about your mom. What was she like? What was Flo like?
She was a very lively woman. She was, and I can remember a story. I don't know how true it is, but this is a story that she would admit to. Is that one time she was a kind of a finicky eater. We never had fish in the house, except when my father would in later years would go get some fish and he would cook it. But so she didn't want to have anything to do with fish, and she didn't want to have anything to do with anything else. You know, she would eat chicken and she would eat beef and that sort of stuff. But the story was that one day they fed her and they told her it was chicken, and then they finally admitted it was rabbit. And she decided to give it back.
Oh my gosh. Was she a kid?
Huh?
How old was she when this?
No! This is when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And then, and there was another time, and this was before I was a kid, is that she was, we're in a bar, and the waiter says, "Well, I can't serve you." So she got up and kissed the waiter because she was 25 years old.
Oh. So, I understand that. Did she go to school to become a teacher?
Yeah, she went to what they call a normal school, as I understand it. And I think she was, I'm fuzzy on this.
Did she go to Centenary?
It could very well
I
be.
think she might have.
Yeah, she might
It's
have.
ringing a bell with
Yeah,
me.
but anyhow, and she was teaching somewhere, and this is a story I heard. I was a kid. I think it was down south somewhere, but I'm not sure. It could have been South Jersey. I don't know. But there was a hurricane, and she would say that straws would be embedded in wood, and that sort of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, and she also told a story about it was a one-room schoolhouse type of thing when she was a kid, and she was never bothered by the, as I grew up, by the smell of skunks, because the kids would try to catch a skunk, throw it under the schoolhouse so that they get out of school.
Oh.
So she said, no, we're going to stay here. Yeah. So she was, she was kind of a character.
She was a character.
Yeah,
That's
she
where
was
all those lively Loizeaux women come from.
Yeah, well, I guess. Yeah. And then, of course, being married to my father, who did all the crazy things you could ever think of, and her face, "Oh, Tim."
So, can you tell us in a nutshell about your father?
Yeah, he was. He did some kind of crazy things. Tried to swallow knives, that kind of stuff, and he would. Well, one of the most famous stories that he would have a party, and he would take his car, and he would park it right by the front door. Okay, so you come out the front door, and he would roll the passenger side window down. And during the party, he'd go out and he'd start the car, okay, or any function, and then he would look at his watch, and he'd say, "Oh my God, I gotta get this one!" And he'd run the door, dive through the passenger car window. The car's running, and off he'd go.
So it seems to me that he just really loved attention.
Oh, good God, yes. He would go and he would get somebody, he'd go into a room and he says, look, I want you to stick your leg out. And he'd walk in there, trip over the leg, do a somersault. And he drove me crazy when I was in college.
Not before then?
Oh yeah, before then, of course. But really then, he came up to one of our big weekends with my mother. Okay? And so now he's playing touch football with my fraternity brothers, the whole 9 yards, you see. Well, I never invited him back again. But my fraternity brothers did. He was there, but he left my mother behind. And he was a wonderful dancer.
He was a wonderful dancer, and he liked to dance.
And he would dance with all, and we would always have the big parties. We would always get 2 or 3 other fraternities together,
Right.
and have it. So
This is at Cornell.
At Cornell, yeah. And we'd have these big parties, and he'd come in there, and he'd start dancing with all the girls. Well, the girls loved to dance with him, and everybody would, all the other guys would say, yeah. But my guys would go, oh no, you're not going to go after him.
So did your dad go to college?
No.
So maybe he really was living his college days.
No, that was him no matter what.
Yes.
Believe me,
yes.
That was him no matter what.
He liked to have a good time.
Here's another little story about it. Okay. We're up at Beaverkill. And up this was the...
100 steps.
It was, no. It was Ashley... the house just before you go down to where the bridge is.
The McDermott's?
No. Well, it wasn't that. It was the dairy farm.
Okay.
Okay. Well, anyhow, and I'm up there, my wife and kids. Okay. We're sitting there at the table. He had a shirt on, button shirt on. All of a sudden, a snake comes out of his shirt.
Yes.
That was him.
Yes.
Oh, Tim.
But he was quite a man in Plainfield, wasn't he?
Oh my God, yes.
What kinds of things did he do in Plainfield?
You name it, and he did it. I mean, he was the president of Muhlenberg Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He was deep in the Kiwanis. He would come home almost every night, and he would have to go out to something function.
He was president of the Board of Education.
While I attended school.
And
that was horrible.
Do you know his picture is still on the Board of Ed wall? It was the last time I was in that room.
I can understand why.
Yeah.
And he was a big supporter of high school, of the athletics,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera, so forth. And it was because of him and my brother Tim was in Lehigh, and so we got interested in wrestling and started the wrestling program.
Oh.
Yeah. Which I participated in.
I didn't know that.
And I mean, yeah, he was very active. And before every home football game, he had, I think, 50 pounds of peanuts delivered, and they were hot, roasted, every Friday night before the football games. And we'd be down in the basement, and we would package them up. And I have so many staples in my fingers from all that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what kinds of things was your mom involved with? Besides running a busy household.
Well, she had problems. She had shoulder problems. She had bursitis in her shoulders, and so she was kind of limited. She couldn't reach up and hang clothes on the clothesline.
Okay.
And of course, nobody had dryers in those days,
Right.
so they got a picture of me hanging clothes when I was a kid, that sort of stuff. But anyhow, until she had that operated on, and then she went out and she played golf and that sort of stuff.
She was quite an athlete herself, wasn't
No,
she?
was a basketball player.
Was she?
Yeah, yep. So, yeah. And of course, he was an athlete. I mean, he played tennis, he did all that stuff. And of course, I hated it. Because we had a tennis court in the backyard.
That's right, you did on Myrtle
And it
Avenue.
was a clay court. And guess who had to take care of it? I hate tennis. I mean, I had to drag it and have it lined and everything else by the time we got home.
So tell us more about growing up on Myrtle Avenue. It was a big house.
Yeah, it's a big house, and we used to have fun. We liked to climb up the front of it, all the way up. And we had up in the attic, before we put an apartment up there, we had trains. And my brother and his friends would take the train and they would shoot it out the window. From the attic. Okay.
Flying trains.
And then we made that into an apartment, and during the Second World War, and he had one of his workers, who was black, lived in it, and with his wife and small child, and that was significant in those days. It really was. And
Did anybody say anything about that in the neighborhood?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Your parents were pretty open-minded people, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Especially for their generation.
Yeah.
So, do you have any examples of that?
Well, having
Besides that example, that's... I mean, wasn't there a story about your grandfather quitting the country club because it was being too exclusive?
that I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm sorry I'm inserting stories
No,
into...
hey, it's good.
Did you hear that one, Steve?
No.
Okay.
So,
That doesn't make
no, I don't
sense.
think you do. Oh, now talk about the country club.
Yeah, that's different.
Okay.
He went to England. Okay. And
To
he
visit
was-
his sister?
Huh?
To visit his sister?
To visit his sister. And he was there for a month or so. And he was driving around a little Morris Minor. Okay? He gets back. The first day he gets back, he goes up to the country club because he wants to go up there to play gin rummy with his buddies, I guess. Okay. Here's a Cadillac. Here's a Cadillac. And he's got a 98 Oldsmobile. And he's going to park it right there where a Morris Minor would fit.
Oh, no.
He took out both of them. All three of them. That's the truth.
He had some stories with cars.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and when he got one of his cars, because he wouldn't ever think about reading the manual. He was driving around for about 3 months it was reverse, neutral, drive, and S. Well, S means super.
What is it? What's that?
It keeps it out of the third gear. It's in second gear all the time.
Uh-oh.
And he was 3 months. And he was driving with somebody. He said, "What the hell are you doing?"
That's funny.
Oh yeah, that's yeah, that's the way it goes.
So you are the second oldest of four.
Yes.
Tell us your about your siblings and how old they are.
Well, my brother was 6 years older than I was,
That's Tim.
and my mother had a miscarriage, and then at 3 years after Tim was born, and then I was born 3 years after that. And when I was born, and I didn't learn this until much later in life, I was born in Muhlenberg Hospital. And my brother came to visit. And my brother got polio. And so then when my sister Ellen was born 3 years later, she was born at home because my mother would not go back to the hospital.
Interesting.
And then, and the same way with my sister Nancy, which was three years later. They were all 3 years apart.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, yeah,
She was on the 3-year plan.
yeah. That was what it was.
So what kinds of things did you guys, what kind of games did you play? What kind of things did you do in the neighborhood growing up?
We had football games, we had baseball games. None of this little league stuff. None of it. I mean, it was just all just, we got together to do it. And we played it. And we played, kick the can, we played all kinds of stuff. We had swings, we had a basketball hoop down there, we had all kinds of stuff. But it was all just neighborhood kids doing neighborhood things.
Lot of kids in the neighborhood?
Yeah, a lot of kids in the neighborhood, yeah.
So what schools did you go to?
Well, went to Jefferson School, which was a 1/10 of a mile down there, not far. And then, of course, Plainfield High School. And
Was there a junior high then?
no, went through 1 through 8 in Jefferson, and
Oh, okay.
then the last 4 years in Plainfield High School.
Did you have a favorite teacher when you were at Jefferson?
One that I was afraid of.
That's the one you remember?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I was afraid of it, for some reason, I got picked. Now, this was during the Second World War. I got picked to take posters to various classes.
Mm-hmm.
I was a young kid, and I think I was in the 3rd grade. And I was doing, and I took this poster into the 4th grade. And Mrs. Deneen was teaching arithmetic division. I said, I can never learn that. I mean, it's just one of those things that just sticks in your head. Yeah.
So are there other things you remember about Jefferson School, which I think is still there and probably is a...
It's no longer a school.
Oh, it's not.
No, it's a administrative building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I drove by there maybe a year ago or so.
So tell us about Plainfield High School. How many, do you remember, did you have a big class, small class?
No, it was a pretty big class. I don't remember exactly how many people.
Couple hundred?
At least.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Did you like high school?
Of course.
You did.
Well, that's where I met the love of my life.
Okay, so tell us that story.
Yeah. Now, my father's president of the Board of Education.
Okay.
Which, to me, was an impediment. And they had X, Y, and Z classes. And, and I forget which one was which, but one of them was college prep, the other one was, to go into local business, a secretary and that sort of stuff, and the other one was, go into automotive or woodworking or that sort of stuff. Okay. So, assuming that X is the highest,
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether it was or not. Assuming X, well, they put me in an English class in my junior year in a Y class. And then I think they had second thoughts. and so they shifted me. And they shifted me to Miss Beakley's class. Now, Miss Beakley had arranged everybody in alphabetical order. But there was some shifting going on. And so there were some empty seats. So this Loizeaux got seated up in a different area.
Next to the E's.
Right behind an E. And that
Any
was
E in particular?
Ennis. And to tell you the honest truth, she picked me.
You didn't sit near her on purpose.
No, and I sat in front of her. And
You were juniors.
that's where it all began. Yeah. Yeah.
So you dated through high school.
Yeah. I had never met her before my junior year.
Wow. Well, she was in your grade, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the class was big enough that you didn't know her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
What we did find out later on is that we went to Mrs. Lippincott's things much earlier, but there was no connection.
everybody went to Mrs. Lippincott's.
Yes.
I went to Mrs. Lippincott's. Steve went to Mrs. Lippincott. Miss Lippincott.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
We're gonna circle back to that, but what kinds of things did you like to do in high school?
Well, before or after?
Both.
Well, I was in junior leaders,
Okay.
which is when did a lot of gymnastics, et cetera, so forth, and that sort of stuff, and that was a very, very big thing in my life. And then, of course, I played freshman football, but I could never run very fast. And I was supposed to be a running back, so
Didn't work out
it
so
didn't
well.
work out very well. My father was very disappointed when I didn't keep on with that, because he wanted me to be an athlete. And my brother was not.
Was not.
And was not. And so that kind of disappointed him, et cetera, so forth. But then I got in junior leaders, which my brother Tim was in, but I liked that. That was a lot of fun. And then Margaret Ann came home.
And that was
And
it.
that changed a lot of things.
What did your parents think of her?
Oh, this is hard. Because I probably shouldn't say this, but I think he loved my Margaret Ann as much as his own daughters.
He really liked her.
He really liked her. And because she would argue with him.
She was a tough cookie.
She was a Democrat and he was a Republican, and they would argue. And I'd stay on the sidelines. I didn't want to get in that mess. But,
He liked his women strong.
yes, he did. Yes, he did. And, you remember the 120 Steps place?
Mm-hmm.
You know when he bought that?
When?
When I got engaged to Margaret Ann.
Oh. I am going to hit the button and then we're going to start again because this is 35 minutes.